Hi, my name's Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the books that I read during the Booktube-a-thon. So I did start vlogging the Booktube-a-thon, but then I stopped. And I'm actually a bit sad. Like, I wish that I had been able to do some of the challenges because they looked really fun, but I just did not have time. But I still managed to get quite a lot of reading done and I got through all the challenges. So that's the most important thing. So let's go through the challenges. The first challenge was to let a coin toss decide your first read, and I did that in my vlog footage that you'll never see. Maybe I'll try and edit it in, but probably not. Probably not. I'm quite lazy. We won't do that. But what I read is Get Your Shit Together by Sarah Knight. And as it turned out, I also made this the book where I read a hat the whole time I was reading it. Basically, I only read it early in the morning and I had my beanie on, but I don't have hair. I'm not prepared. But I wore the hat the whole time. I even wore my hat on the drive home one day just so that I could finish the book off. And I will say that while this book wasn't exactly revolutionary, I did find it kind of motivational, and I think it had some good concepts about how to get your shit together. So if getting your shit together is something you want to do, then I would recommend it. Then the next challenge was Something You Want to Do. So that last book also counted for this challenge, but officially for this challenge, I'm going to go with The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, because not giving a fuck about things that don't matter is definitely something I want to do. What I will say about this book is it wasn't actually very practical. I think there were a lot of interesting ideas that it talked about and that it explored, and I found it a little bit motivational, inspirational, but not really very practical. A little bit, but it would require me to take a bunch of time thinking about things which I don't have that time, so it will have to wait. So then the third challenge was to read and watch a book to movie adaptation, and for that I read The Changeover by Margaret Mahy. Margaret Mahy is a very famous New Zealand author, and I loved this book. Some of the lines were just amazing. I loved how New Zealand it felt, especially this was filmed in 1986, which is when I was a kid, and it felt like 1986. I think it did a really good job of describing poverty and mother-daughter relationships that aren't ideal. It explored divorce a bit. It also, our main character Laura is 14 and just kind of becoming a woman and learning what that means, getting interested in boys. There's this really weird character called Sorensen who is just really messed up. Basically what happens is that her brother gets somewhat possessed by this guy, and she ends up working with these witches to try and save her brother. I honestly think a lot of people on Booktube would really like this, especially if you like middle grade. This isn't exactly middle grade, but I felt like the writing style was quite simple, and that's not a bad thing. Like, simple in a good way, but also there were some lines in here that were just great. However, I made my family watch the movie and it was quite slow. There were some bits I think that they improved on a little bit, but they really lost a lot of the character building, and so in the end, in the movie, I feel like you just didn't really care about what was happening, and it was all so slow and atmospheric. And they completely ruined the character of Sorensen. In the book, he's completely inappropriate and broken. In the movie, he was just a generic guy who happens to be a witch. Boring. So that was a shame about the movie, because it did look like it was going to be good. It had a bunch of famous actors in it. It has Lucy Lawless in it. But I can't really recommend it. Do recommend the book though. Alright, so then the fourth challenge was to read something with green on the cover, and for that I read Low by Remenda and Ticini. I know now that that's two people, and this is volume 1, The Delirium of Hope. And sadly, this book, there are some really good ideas in it. There really were, but why do all the women have to constantly be in bikinis? I guess as soon as it began with a sex scene, I kind of had the feeling it was going to be one of those graphic novels. It's just like sex all the time, even when it's not really adding anything. I honestly don't know if I will continue. I like the concept of some of the characters, just not the execution. The art's alright. It's kind of pretty, right? I kind of like to see what happens with the main character. Basically, in this book, it's set in a future where the sun has started expanding. Humans haven't yet managed to escape the Earth and find somewhere else to live, so to survive, they've gone to live under the ocean. But under the ocean, their time is still limited and everything's kind of turned to shit. Except our main character is like endlessly hopeful that they can overcome it and find a way to save the human race. So yeah, that sounds really interesting, but I just feel like I'm doomed not to like any graphic novels, except, hold the line, later I did much better. So I did already talk about the challenge to wear a hat the whole time. Tick that one off too. That was challenge number 5. Then the next challenge was to read a book with a beautiful spine, and for that I read Love in the Time of Metal and Flesh. You can see, maybe you can see, does my camera, I got a new camera, shh, it's a secret, but it doesn't know. It does, I'm not good at like focus. Anyway, you can trust me, it has a beautiful spine. The sad thing about this book, beautiful spine, very not beautiful insides. This book was mega messed up. Like, I like books to be a little bit dark and interesting. This book, the main character was... Wow. Basically, it follows this guy who cuts himself to the point of mutilation. There's a romance, there's murder, there's pedophilia, there's rape. There's just horrible mutilation, and the ending was disgusting and will stick with me for a long time, and I really wish it wouldn't. So, is the best thing I can say about this book. I spend most of the time reading this book just thinking, what the fuck am I reading? Yeah, no. Blah. Then lastly, I read 2 graphic novels, and this is where I come back and say, yes, I have managed to find some good graphic novels. So firstly, I read volume 4 of the Lock and Key series, which is Keys to the Kingdom. This is volume 4, so far I've been loving this series. This one may be the best so far. I think I gave it 5 stars, like honestly. So many good twists and turns in this series. It follows this family whose father has died, so they've moved back to the family home, and now they keep discovering all these keys that have different magical powers. There's this strange guy trying to find one particular key. The keys are so cool. Like always in the back, there is a section about the different keys and like the different powers they have. And it's so cool. There's like a key that you can open up your head and take memories out and put them in. There's a key that lets you go through a door and change your gender. There's this key that when you go through the door you become a ghost. Oh, there's so many cool keys, and I really love the story. The characters are great. The twists and turns. The mystery of it all. If you like graphic novels and you haven't read Lock and Key yet, or if you don't like graphic novels and you haven't read Lock and Key yet, you should read Lock and Key. It's amazing. Then the next graphic novel I read, or comic, I guess this is more of a comic, is The Umbrella Academy by Jared Way and Gabriel Ba. I don't know if I said that right. So I really liked My Chemical Romance back in the day. I know my sister had this. Danielle, did you love this? Because I love this. I wasn't sure what I was going to think of it. And actually, I got a little bit confused in the beginning because this is a library version. And it's missing some pages. Like in here, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit where pages have been ripped out. And it went from like this bit where it's like, to which he replied. And then there's nothing about what he replied. And that's what clued me, and I looked it up and I found the missing pages online and I read them through there. But It's a bit sad that the library version is missing some pages, but I really love this series. It basically starts with these 45 babies randomly get born from mothers who weren't even pregnant and didn't know they were going to have babies. This one guy manages to find 7 of them, these 7 babies, and they become superheroes. But this comes from the time when their father has died and they're all getting back together. It's obvious that they all haven't seen each other for quite a long time, and there's all these like messed up relationships, as well as them having to save the world. And I just really loved the art. I loved the humor. I loved so much of the darkness, and the concepts are just super cool. I really loved this. I didn't have high hopes, even though I like My Chemical Romance. You know, you can never really be sure when celebrities do stuff in a field that's different from their main field where they became a celebrity. You don't know. Is it going to be good? But this is good. And I'm super excited about reading the next ones in the series. Which is actually another point. Danielle, do you have the 3rd one? Because the library doesn't have the 3rd one. So if you've been counting, then you will know that I did meet the 7th challenge, which is to read 7 books. I was planning to actually read more and like not so much the graphic novels, but that didn't happen. But still, 7 books in a week, even if they're graphic novels, is pretty good. And I think, oh my goodness, I read another one. I completely forgot that I also listened to Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, which is the first book of the Remnant Chronicles. I hope I got all that right. So that was my 8th book, so I did read 8 books. And I was somewhat surprised that I really liked Kiss of Deception, because I thought it was like a YA fantasy romance that it might not be my thing. But it was kind of cool. So this follows this princess who's betrothed, and she decides she doesn't want to marry this guy because she thinks he's probably old and ugly and yuck, because she's never met him. And so she runs away, and the prince comes after her, following her, and also an assassin is sent after her. And so very quickly she meets up with the 2 of them, but it's written in a way so you don't know which of the 2 guys that she's met is the assassin and which one is the prince. And I just loved figuring out the mystery. Also, just to brag a little, I figured it out. I did find with the audiobook it was a little bit hard to keep everything straight in my head, but what I did quite early on was just assign assassin and prince to each one of the guys and then track whether that seemed realistic. Very quickly I decided to swap my initial one around, and I was right, so I was very proud. I don't really know how the next 2 books are going to go because they won't have that same mystery to them, but I'm going to try and read them really soon because I don't want more series in progress floating around. So I was pretty happy with my success at the Booktube-a-thon, though again I do wish I had had some time to do the challenges, maybe next year, because hopefully I won't be working next year and I'll have more time to commit to the Booktube-a-thon and like heaps of other readathons. Do let me know if you did the Booktube-a-thon, how did you go? And if you have read any of the books that I talked about today, then I would love to talk to you about them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.